All right. All right. Good evening, everybody. I want to call to order Woodstock's Planning and Zoning Commission special meeting for October 6th. We'll go through the roll. First, we'll do the folks who are in person. Before we do that, what? Echoing.
And was that the owl chirping?
Right. I'll just ask people not to speak unless recognized, because we do have to follow some formality. Thank you. Is there some setting with that?
I don't know.
We'll figure it out what it's doing. So we'll figure that out. But we'll go through the roll. Tim, do you mind starting?
Timothy, Mark Blackmore.
Joseph.
And online, Doug Porter, you're here.
Yes, I am.
Sid Blodgett, you're here.
I am.
Dwight Reinowitz, I see you.
Here.
Jeff Marcotte, you're here.
I am. I'm having a little bit of difficulty, but I am here.
What?
He's got his computer and his iPhone.
So you're on your iPhone also, Jeff?
I am.
I think we're picking up feedback from it, if you have both things on.
Bear with me. I'm trying to get onto my computer.
Sounds like Jimi Hendrix.
And then David Morse, you're here.
Yes, I am.
And then we'll note that Nancy Fraser had told me, that Jeff is muted. Nancy Fraser told me she's not able to attend, and I believe Joe Pulek is still away. So not able to attend. Is he back in November? I forget when he told us he's back, but I know he wasn't going to be around here for this meeting. That takes us to designation of alternates. We need 2 alternates, and it looks like we have 2 alternates with us. So I will seek Doug Porter and Dwight Reinowitz. You guys will have to then do the usual celebratory party that you got seated. I'll let you decide how you want to handle that. So we'll note that for the record. Let me write this down here. Put this on the voting record. Who's doing what? So let's see, Doug Porter seated. And then that takes us to the next agenda item, which is Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. My report will be quick. Amy, my usual thank yous to staff. I don't know if Dan, our CEO, is planning to attend tonight or not. I didn't hear from him. I don't know. All right. Because I just noticed he's not here. So thank you to the staff for the work that gets done. Also to commissioners for attending all of our meetings. We appreciate it. We do have a meeting scheduled in 2 weeks. Let me know if you're not able to attend, because we do have at least 1 public hearing. Actually, we have 2. And we just want to make certain we have a quorum for that. So just let me know if for some reason you're unable to attend. Otherwise, I don't have anything else at this point to report that has to be reported now. That will wait until our regular monthly business meeting. We do have a public hearing, which technically it's not 7:45 yet. So we noticed it for 7:45.
Yes.
Yeah, so we do need to wait till 7:45, because that's when the public hearing that we have is noticed. What do we do? For what, the echo device? The owl device?
Right, you go into the audio settings.
Okay.
I don't know if we're gonna do that now.
I can look into that and we can see with the owl device. So it would, right now I have like 5 minutes to go until 7:45 when we're supposed to wait for the public hearing. So it wouldn't make any sense to start delving into one of the other agenda items, and then we're going to have to pivot away from that and get to the public hearing. So I actually will just mention a couple of other items just to fill in the time. We do have a land use department clerk who has been hired, I've been told, by the CEO. Let me see what her name is, unless, let's see. Tracy Giarusso, do you know if I'm pronouncing that right? So we look forward to working with her. She'll be in the office, working with our zoning enforcement officer. I haven't had a chance yet to meet her. I just found out about it yesterday. So I'll look forward to talking with her. We'll keep her busy with stuff that's needed for getting all the meeting packets together. For those meeting packets should be ready by the end of the week. And the agenda will be posted as well. I'm told by Dan Malo that she's working in the office Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 12:30. So she'll be there for half days, answering the phone, greeting residents, facilitating the operation of the department. So I'm sure that will be a big help to Dan so he can focus on some of the other things he needs to focus on, which will be good. Are we getting the vehicle back?
Well, I don't know if it's gonna happen again.
All right, if it does, we can go accordingly. Where is this owl device sitting on here? You know,
Sounds too.
and online, Doug, you guys, you're able to hear us okay? I know there was, some people had told us they had an issue with hearing loud enough. Okay,
Looks like Jeffrey Marcotte has cut out his laptop or his computer.
so maybe that's what the issue is. Okay, well, let's see what happens as we pivot through in that regard. And then we're continuing, right, we haven't been mailing out the meeting packets. Has that been a problem for people? That's been okay? Picking them up?
Yeah. I mean, I'm picking it up because it sounded like there was a staff shortage. Go back to mail it out.
If people would, if there are anybody who would like to have their meeting packet mailed, then I would just let Dan or Tracy in the office know. Otherwise, by default, it will likely they'll just put them into that box out front. But if there's anybody who would like to have it mailed, because I don't know where, if they have that list or not anymore, after Ashley left, let's just let her know in the office so she can reconstitute that list if the list isn't there. So.
My recollection was that most commissioners wanted it mailed. The exception was.
Right, we just need to make certain
willing
that
pick it up.
we know who wants and who doesn't want. Or you can just let me know and I'll make certain we get the updated list. If there's anybody who, wants it a particular way, otherwise I'll talk with them about mailing and seeing what day will be. The latest would be Thursday that it gets mailed, because they won't be mailed on Fridays with the town hall closed. So hopefully I'll give enough time to get it out to everybody. So, but I'll let others know. I'll send an email and I'll include the office in on it as far as making certain we know who would rather just get it picked up as opposed to the default that can just be mailing. So in that regard. So, and then otherwise, I don't think I had anything else to fill in the remaining. I got 2 minutes until we can start. So maybe next time we should call these before 7:40. Normally we're waiting till after 7:45 to pivot back to a public hearing. So we'll just wait. Actually, I got 1 more minute and then we're covered legally with what we've noticed for the public hearing, and then we can go accordingly. So we'll just wait 1 more minute and then we can start the public hearing and move forward with the meeting. And did you need to show it up on the screen, or you
I was
have the
waiting for
text?
it to that, but yeah.
You want to just put it up on the screen? It's just really that one line at the end of the regulation. So we might as well get that up and get it on the screen. Thank you, Delia. While you're doing that, I got 7:45, so I'm going to go ahead and now we can do the public hearing. So I will open the public hearing. Agenda item 3A, text amendment to zoning regulations, Article 3A2EA4, for the purpose of extending the temporary limited moratorium on cannabis establishments. Just so that people know, I know commissioners know, for members of the public, virtual or here, public hearing would be the only way for this one item to let us know if there's anything that you would like to bring to our attention relative to this one text amendment. Otherwise, once the public hearing closes, we can't receive any more input. And then the commission pivots to its old business, which is discussing and deciding upon the text amendment. This is a straightforward text amendment, which I'll get into in a minute. This public hearing has been noticed, and where is this here, Delia, on the list that you, Villager. So these are the two correct dates, right?
Yes.
So this has been published and posted in the Villager on September 23rd and September 30th. So that covers for the purposes of tonight's meeting. So everybody should have already received a copy of this, and it's up on the screen. The only aspect that is the proposed change, this is an amendment proposed by the commission. And it is to change the effective date that this moratorium ends from October 31st of this year to April 30th of 2023. And the purpose, as has already been stated on the record previously, but I'll state it again for the public hearing, is to allow the commission more time to work with the public to craft regulations. And that's the purpose behind this. Nothing else in this part of the regulations was proposed to be changed by the commission. I will open it up to commissioners. Anybody have any questions? Joe? Delia?
I just wanted to mention all the other required notices were also done.
Thank you. Joe?
Just to reinforce your comment that what we're voting on is not anything regulatory. It is essentially just saying that we need more time to figure out the regulations, even though there are some definitions in place. These are not regulations. We'll be working on that in future public hearings, I'm sure, to draft regulations.
Yes, in fact, we've been keeping it on the agenda to have discussions through some of our meetings about this, absolutely. So that is a very important point. This says this is purely for the moratorium, nothing else, relative to cannabis establishments. So anything from commissioners who are virtual? I don't want to miss it if any of you have anything. Try to make sure I don't miss virtual hands. I'll open up to the public. Any members of the public, virtual, in person, have any comments, questions to raise on this? Certainly, there's nobody virtual. And anything further from you, Delia?
No.
What's the will of the commission relative to public hearing? Move to close the public hearing. Second. Is that you, Mark? So the motion on the table made by Joe Adaletta, seconded by Mark Blackmer, is to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll go through the roll. Joe Adaletta. Aye. Mark Blackmer.
Aye.
Sid Blodgett.
Aye.
Jeff Gordon, aye. Jeff Marcotte.
Aye.
David Morse.
Aye.
Doug Porter.
Aye.
Dwight Reinowitz.
Aye.
And last but not least, Mr. Young. Aye. That so passes, so the public hearing is closed. And magically, that takes us to old business, which just happens to be agenda item 4A, which is a text amendment to zoning regulations, Article 3, A2EA4, for the purpose of extending the temporary and limited moratorium on cannabis establishments. I will open it up for discussion only from the commission at this point in time. Any discussion by the commission? Okay, any discussion by you, Delia?
No.
What is the will of the commission?
To extend it.
Sorry.
To extend.
So approve the text amendment?
Yes.
Any discussion on the motion by commissioners? Hearing none, we'll go through the roll. Joe Adaletta.
Aye.
Mark Blackmer.
Aye.
Sid Blodgett.
Aye.
Jeff Gordon, aye. Jeff Marcotte.
Aye.
David Morse.
Aye.
Doug Porter.
Aye.
Dwight Reinowitz.
Aye.
Timothy Young.
Aye.
That so passes. You'll do whatever you need to do, Delia, to post it?
Yep.
Okay. I don't think we need a whole new zoning regulation book made up, right? That's taken care of. Thank you, everybody. That takes us then to, I'm going to change, unless there's an objection, I'm going to change the order of the agenda because we do have some members of the public for an agenda item. So that way we won't have to keep them waiting. So unless there's an objection, I'm going to move agenda item 6, home occupations and business permits, up as the next agenda item. Okay. So that takes us to agenda item 6. Just to remind people where we left off, we had left off with our discussions relative to how we view home occupations. I did ask Dan, our CEO, if he had any new home occupations to bring to us tonight. He said he did not. We wanted to make certain that all new home occupation applications before being decided by the CEO are coming to us so we can have discussions and understand, but there wasn't anything new that he had for us for this meeting to discuss with him. We'll see for the next meeting if there's anything or not. So that way we can continue our review of home occupations. And then we also had discussions about the home occupation application itself that is in town hall. I know things went out to commissioners relative to some draft ideas as far as things that were raised at our meeting. So we actually have that has gone out to everybody by, I don't know if it was in the meeting packet or by email, but that did go out to everybody. So at this point, I'll open it up first to just commissioners, and then I'll open up to members of the public who may wish to speak on home occupation relative to where we left off, if there's anything additional or where to move things forward. Joe?
So just that I'd be inclined to move forward with modifying the current application to include some of these comments or delete some that's been overdone here. Because that seems like a quick way to get some more information without having to go through a public hearing process and regulatory changes. These additions to the application.
Right, and this is the application that sits in the office as opposed to our regs. So,
Correct.
so you're right, it is an easier as far as some of the additional info with that. I'll open up to what others think. What do others think, commissioners, relative to this draft update to the home occupation permit form? Anything additional or different to do with it? This is an easy process to deal with because, well, technically we don't vote on these things. Like these application forms.
Yeah, I guess.
I'll leave it up to how the commission wants to handle it. Otherwise, when I had spoken with Dan Malo with regards to this in the CEO office, he didn't have any objection to these things. He was at our meeting when these things were discussed. So if the commission is okay, I can follow up with Dan on Monday when he's back, on Tuesday when he's back in office, and discuss with him about that. We would like to move forward with the edits and see if we can then use this as the form moving forward. That's okay with commissioners? Okay, so I will let him know. I'll follow up with him on that. Okay, thank you. And is there anything else that commissioners want to raise about home occupations? Otherwise, I'll open it up to the public and we can certainly continue our discussions. Okay, well, are there any members of the public on Zoom or in person who wish to speak? If you could just state your name for the record, and if you can do us a favor and just try to speak loud so we can hear you, but we need to make certain people on Zoom can hear them. But thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah, my name is Brian Victor. I live at 77 Laurel Hill Drive.
That's at Lake Bungie. Been there since 1966. And what we're worried about is the effect of B&Bs and Airbnbs on our community. We've got one or two of these already operating, and one of them we've tracked in just 3 years, or actually less than 3 years, has brought in over 750 non-residents to our community. Now, our community is Witches Woods and Lake Bungie together. I'm combining the two. That's 508 homes on less than 1 square mile. I mean, we're on top of each other. We're like the opposite of the rest of Woodstock. So when maybe in town here, somebody has a B&B or an Airbnb and has a giant party or something, maybe your neighbor wouldn't even know. I mean, he's acres and miles away. No, here, when you walk out your front door, you can see 15 houses. You know, nobody, your houses are 20 feet apart on the water. We cannot have a hotel-like environment in a congested area like that. And what we're concerned about is our quality of life, our safety, and most importantly, our property values. I've already talked to some people that have talked about moving. People have been there forever, just because they see what this has done to the place. Now, we at Bungie and Witches Woods account for over $100 million in taxable real estate. That doesn't count Quasit Lake either. So I would hope that you guys would be just as interested in keeping our property values up as we would. And I hate to present a problem without a solution. So I think I have the solution to this, and it's quite simple. Back in September of 2018, the Office of Legislative Research did a research report for the Connecticut legislature, and it's regulating Airbnbs through zoning in Connecticut. It's got a list of a number of towns and what they do, but Woodstock happens to be on the last page.
Excuse me, Doug. Oh, Jeff? Jeff?
I can hear you, Sid.
I can't hear
I can't hear anything either.
Yeah, I think we can hear each other, but we can't hear them.
Yeah, we lost audio.
Good, we can talk about them then.
So Jeff can't hear us? Jeff Gordon?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it.
I'll see if I can figure out how to send him a chat.
It looks like the chat's turned off.
Chat is typically disconnected during a meeting.
All right.
We're not supposed to be able to talk among ourselves.
That's great.
They don't want us to plan the coup while
Yeah.
we're waiting.
Yeah.
This is being failed to detect your speaker.
Okay, that's better. We can hear you now. Thank you.
It's not even picking up the owl device anymore.
Jeff, we can hear you
There
now.
it is. Echo canceling. Audio, start video. Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Yes, hearing you now.
Yes, we got you.
Yeah, that's why.
Thank you.
Yes. If we can just, I'll just ask members of the public to hold on speaking if you can, please,
Yeah, if you
unless
could,
recognized by the chair.
Jeff, if he could repeat the last couple of paragraphs, we missed that.
The last I heard was his reference to the
Pick it
2018
up.
state law, then it went silent.
Do you know how this works, this owl device works?
Oh, I did, it worked in the past.
But the laptop doesn't want to seem to. Doug, Fig, can you hear us now?
Yes, we can.
Well, we can
Yes, we
hear
can hear
you.
Uh,
Yeah, but they're not speaking. I mean, it's not coming through. It's saying that it's failing to detect anything here. Something's wrong with the laptop or the connection. Failed to detect your speaker. Why is it? I don't know how that device works. Let's see. Microphone, same as.
Well, the plugins are properly connected.
All right, that's always the downside of attending virtual if the system doesn't work. Yeah, it's not picking up the audio.
Well, we can put on a microphone.
I don't know if that for some reason now isn't connecting well. Do you want me to switch to a different one here?
Sure.
All right.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yep. Well,
Oh,
we connected from the owl device, so we lost something with the owl device, unfortunately. All right. We'll move forward. If you don't mind, we just need to make certain everybody could hear you. So if you want to continue on, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
And you say, I want to open a bed and breakfast, he hands you an application. And in that application, it's almost word for word. It also includes Northeast District, the fire measures, building, and everything that gets planned to make the place is acceptable, and testing the well, make sure water's okay, quite a list. So we've got two people that are operating now have never applied for a permit, nor would they get it. They don't qualify. And they also haven't changed their use, which that would further help. So I guess what I'm asking you is, can you just enforce the rules and regulations that you already have on your book, just these two houses for now? I talked to Paul and I talked to Dan about it, and you know, they don't seem to have a process in place where if you report somebody who's in violation of all and who is risking their property values, health, and safety, and all of this, there's no provision to do.
Well, technically, the zoning enforcement officer enforces zoning regs. So you've let the zoning enforcement officer know about a concern you have. Well, technically, correct me if I'm wrong, Delia, planning and zoning doesn't do the first step of zoning enforcement. That's the zoning enforcement officer. Let me just finish. So, but he knows that you've raised the concern. He's not here, so I can't ask him specifically what he's actually doing to look into it. So we'll have to follow up with him to find out what he's doing with the quote unquote complaint that could raise a concern with that. So we'll have to find out what he is actually doing with that. If he's looking for the commission to give some guidance, we haven't heard from him on that, but we'll have to find out, because there is a process that's supposed to be followed in any regard relative to zoning enforcement. When a concern or complaints raised, starts in the land use department. The CEO starts that process. Use is zoning. If a building or structure has violated building code or never got a permit for a building permit, the building official handles that. But when it comes to zoning, which is use and land use, that falls in the land use department with the CEO.
Well, in the case of both of these places, one of them has probably a 60-year-old septic system designed for three. Seven cars. 7 people probably more. And there's another place on the other side of Lake Cedar Dam Road that is again a 2 bedroom septic system. I guess they would say an unpermitted expansion of the basement with a full kitchen, which according to Dan, you can't even warm up a cup of coffee in an Airbnb. There's supposed to be no cooking facilities whatsoever. They have a full blown kitchen. Fire marshal who I spoke to said it's supposed to go through ingress and egress, again, water testing to make sure, and none of this has been done. And I just would like to find a path forward to make sure that somebody goes out there and gives them a decent assistance until they get proper licensing. And hopefully we can maybe revising these regulations. I mean, keep in mind, we just can't have that in the Lake District. It's not the same. And it affects everybody. And, you know, we pay a tax on top of the tax. You know, we still, even though we pay that this year, we still have to do our roads, the lake, all these trees that have to be cut on our right of ways, the dam, valves for the dam. We have a big expense, and that's the price we pay to be private. We want to stay private. That's where our value is, private. But this threatens to make it a hotel district for anyone. The only requirement is a credit card.
Well, what we'll do is we'll have to follow up with Dan as the CEO to see what is he doing with regards to looking into an issue. The 3 lake districts that are tax districts fall within the lake zoning district. We created that some years ago to better protect the lake districts. I remember having meetings, a number of meetings with the boards of each lake district. So we can create different rules for the lake district compared to the community district, which is like 99% of the town. Other than the industrial district, we wouldn't have an Airbnb. So there are ways of handling lake districts in the community district, but as far as enforcement, we'll have to look into that. Did you have something, Delia, about the enforcement item, or?
I was a zoning officer until 2018, and Airbnbs were considered bed and breakfast at the time. And then I think some laws changed or something changed. The town had a new town attorney, and he had determined that they were not bed and breakfast because they may not serve food. The bread and breakfast is supposed to serve breakfast, and there probably could be some other differences. And so he had determined that they were not bed and breakfast, so they could not be regulated the way we had been regulating them. And at the time, there wasn't really a clear answer on what to do. So they may not be as simple as you would think, but I'm sure the zoning officer can do something, but he should go through the town attorney and figure out what would be the best approach.
Yeah, he'll have to, the zoning enforcement starts in that office. Have to find out what is he doing. And then we can move forward. The other is if there's any violations of building codes, that's the building official. If there's any violations of fire safety codes, that's the fire marshal certainly. And if anything is happening that's deemed to be a violation of the public health codes, that has to go through public health, which is the Northeast District Department of Health. As far as all these different, who has jurisdiction over different things. So it's not as simple as you open up an Airbnb and you can get a permit from one agency. You may have other things that you're going to have to get, which is not uncommon for various things that you have to get more than one permit in order to do what needs to be done. So, right. So, and it's, we liaison with a number of different other agencies. So again, that we'll have to find out from the zoning enforcement officer. Joe, and then Mark.
The only thing I wanted to comment, Mr. Victor, was that this is the way the zoning office knows that there are violations. Citizen, it's a big town, zoning officer is only often in the office or inspecting certain construction. So if there are violations, we kind of rely on the citizens to see what's happening in their neighborhood. So this is exactly how it has to happen. You bring your concern to the CEO. I think the CEO will end up having to go out, responding to citizens' concern and look at the properties and then make a determination of compliance or non-compliance, and then take steps of talking to the attorney, finding out how to get the non-compliant applicant in compliance. If that's possible. And the second part, I just wanted to ask about, don't Fuchswood and Bungie have another set of regulations for the Lake District that has some level of control over what happens there?
Mr. Victor?
Yes. But, you know, that requires bylaw changes, things like that, kind of like urgency here.
Oh, yeah, again.
And that can be, and certainly if we were to look at regulations, and it's been a while since we've actually taken this topic up for Airbnb, because some years ago, there really wasn't much happening with it. Anything we do with our regulations takes time as well, especially given a statutory process we have to follow when it comes to changing regulations. They just can't happen overnight the way things are required by state law. But certainly the CEO has to see what's going on and investigate a complaint. So if he knows about this, then correct me if I'm wrong, Dio, because you used to do this for many years for Woodstock, then it's a process he has to follow and come up with a determination, which is either they are violating the regulations, and then there's actions that are taken, and it can be stepwise. He can go and issue a notice of violation. And then if that's not adhered to, then you start ramping things up more and more where, you know, we do at every meeting, this meeting isn't designed for it, but our monthly business meeting, which is the third Thursday of the month, we get reports from the CEO. We see the permits, we see reports from him and discuss with the CEO about zoning enforcement. We're very mindful of that. And then sometimes it has to be taken up a notch, where then you start issuing formal cease and desist, and you have to start taking a whole bunch of legal action. There's ramping up that happens, so there's a process that's followed. But it sounds like the first step of the process you've done, which is notifying him, and by a corollary, you've notified us, so we can follow up with and see where that is.
And there's something urgent. We have two now. People buying the land ready to build. And buying property. Hurting them. You know, something with the existing Airbnbs, that's just gonna keep things worse. More and more. And as far as the community goes, I mean, we had a meeting. And I made a motion to take a vote. What the community thought about this. And it was like, I think the only two people that didn't completely ban them were the people that have them. I mean, it benefits no one in the community except the people that are running a little business. This private.
Well, we'll follow up with the zoning enforcement office. Again, he's not here tonight, but the office reopens. He's in on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So he's only working those 2 days. So the earliest we can get through to him is Tuesday, and then see where that process is and let him know that there was a discussion tonight. Mark, did you have something?
It just kind of what Joe said, I was questioning what the Lake Association said, if the Lake Association had regulations towards renting out properties and putting in B&Bs or Airbnbs.
Right.
Well, this is new, you know, so it's gotta be developed. But I just thought, I mean, right now, today, we have places that are in violation of everything that you require. And a lot of it's safety stuff too, and the other problem is the septic. You know, nobody wants to overflow, work your 2-bedroom septic system with 8 people in the house.
And that gets into public health codes, which is the jurisdiction of the public health department.
And I know there's a lot of people I see on the Zoom that might have something to say about this.
I'll get through people. Yes.
Yeah, unless you have any other questions.
Joe?
One, if you could clarify the numbers you mentioned earlier about the number of people. Is it like this?
Well,
right?
yeah.
That's it.
The one that we use to gauge that. Comments on Airbnb. One of the, just one of them. Comments. I think about how they're using our lake and swimming from this place to that. It's all private, and we pay the council here in town to, you know, regulate that, and meanwhile, you have people bringing in more people, trust that. And the way we came up with it was the Hotel Association has done a study on how many people we refuse based, on general population that goes to hotels, and they said it's about 1 in 3. So we took the 250 and multiplied it by 3 and figured that's pretty close. That's more houses than we have.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
And the other thing, it just would suggest if you have that form that you got from the land use office, you present that at your association meeting to let a larger group there know that there are regulations that have to be followed. If there is a desire to open Airbnb, and like it's not something like the 2 current places just started on their own. There are regulations, so that may help slow it down and stop it and bring it to the attention of the land use office when people come in.
And I actually have a copy of that. I didn't bring my folder on Airbnbs. I actually have one based upon discussions we've been doing on and off over the years. But I know I have that in there. It's not a big document, but we can get that document out to commissioners. So it was raised tonight. So we can get that distributed out, which we'll do by email to commissioners. And so, everyone can see what you're referencing. I made a note of it, and I'll just send it into our CEO, and he can distribute it out by the email to our commission. So. And then Dr. Bake, it's nice to see you. You wanted to speak. If you can just state your name for the record. Thank you for
Sure.
being here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come. My name is Rania Bake. I live at 135 Laurel Hill Drive, Woodstock Valley. I also have a building 602 Route 169. I couldn't hear everything because we were kind of in and out a little bit, but you were inquiring about our lake government. And we do have something called deeds and covenants. And to change a deed and covenant, I think 80 or 85% of the population has to vote. And the pertinent deed and covenant states that no businesses should be allowed to be run through a residential property. And to me, the definition of business is any service or any product that you're selling for profit. So to me, we already have something in place. I guess it all comes down to legal interpretation. But we do have a deed and covenants that says that you cannot run a commercial business out of your home. And it seems like a lot of these bed and breakfasts are day-to-day rentals. They're not even 30 days or a week. Sometimes it's weekend to weekend. I know this because I walk my dog around the lake pretty much every day. And sometimes it will be as many as 6 or 7 cars at this one B&B. So it raises a lot of concerns and a lot of issues. Again, I think it comes down to legal definition as to how our deeds and covenants would hold up. But because we are in the Lake Tax District and we have this special government, I think that needs to be taken into consideration.
And that would be private, handled by the association. We do with regulations, what separately.
Would be nice if they in parallel, not working.
They're right now not working against each other.
Yeah.
And you're putting the volume down.
Well, one of the things we did when we created the Lake District some years ago was to actually better allow what was our.
Can't hear.
Lake districts
and covenants indeed want to be more restrictive beyond our rights and aren't contrary to state law, then that actually can be done. So sometimes both things get done. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on home occupations? Yes, can you please state your name for the record? Thank you for being here tonight.
She wasn't when she raised her hand.
No, but it's listed as you're muted. Unmuted now, are you able to?
I'm not sure if you can hear us or not. We can't hear you, so I'm not sure what anyone's saying.
Yeah, Jeff, there's problems with the audio. I don't know if you can hear us.
Why, for some reason, it's not picking anything up on this device.
I don't know.
I don't know why. Technically, it's working. Can you hear us now?
Can you hear us now?
Yep.
Can hear
So
you,
they're
dear.
picking up my microphone.
So anything away from your computer, we can't hear.
That's your computer.
Yeah.
Some reason it's not. All right, can you hear us now? Better? Okay. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on occupations? Or anything else?
We cannot hear you.
In general about home occupations, is there anything further? I'll open this up to commissioners. Anything further we want to look at with home occupations? To go further into, I know we really wanted to see what applications we're getting to be able to review. Able to hear us? Is your mic picking up?
Can you hear us now? I saw someone shaking their head. So can you hear us now?
I can hear when you're speaking, but
We
that's
can hear
it.
you're speaking. We can't hear anybody else.
Unfortunately, this is the downside of the technology. It's not to work. I don't know why this laptop isn't functioning.
The owl camera is working. I don't know why.
What?
What?
I don't know why it's not working. It's been working well for a number of weeks or more, but I'm not sure why now. Something, this laptop is now not even picking up its own audio system. Somebody's- Can you hear us at all? No, all right. Well, fortunately, this isn't our monthly business meeting with public hearings. In which case we would have to take a recess and then see what's up, but I don't know, we're gonna have to reboot this laptop and figure out why it's malfunctioning. That's where this all runs from for the virtual meeting, unfortunately. All right. Failure to detect. I don't understand why. All right. Well, I would say if we're not able to really get anybody virtual on, then we'd have to ask ourselves what we're going to do further with the meeting.
Jeff, Mr. Chairman, can you hear us now?
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can. Right at the moment, I think all of us can hear you.
Yeah, we can barely hear you because we're running off of Delia's laptop.
Well, you're coming through clearly, so let's just keep continuing, see if anyone else has any comments.
Can the rest of you guys hear us, Sid?
Yeah, I can now.
Yeah, we can hear you when you're close to Delia's computer. If people want to talk, they should come up and talk like it's a podium.
Yeah, because unfortunately the owl device is, I don't think it's that, it's the laptop not picking it up.
They can
So-
give me the account or whatever. I could run the meeting off mine next time.
we can take a look at that to see. I think there's something wrong with this computer now, but we'll figure it out. So is there anything further from commissioners relative to home occupations or from anybody else?
Yeah, I think Kathy Ellison wanted to speak on this.
Did you have something that you wanted to speak on? If you can state your name for the record, please.
My name is Kathleen Ellison, 123 Laurel Hill Drive, Woodstock Valley, Connecticut. So I apologize if this question is asked and answered. We really couldn't hear much of anything. What I'm trying to understand is that rule that Mr. Victor read regarding Airbnbs are being regulated as bed and breakfast, is that accurate? Is that a true statement? That they're actually being regulated as bed and breakfast?
Delia, did you want to answer that again?
She asked whether Airbnbs are regulated as bed and breakfasts. And when I was a zoning officer, under the direction of the town attorney at that time, they were to be regulated as bed and breakfasts. With the change in town attorney, the new town attorney felt differently, and that they were no longer, or that they did not fit the definition of a bed and breakfast. So he did not recommend regulating them that way. And it was never clear to me really how they should be regulated at all. And so the subject really hasn't come up again. And I haven't been the zoning officer for over 4 years.
So
Go ahead.
So the last town attorney said that they shouldn't be regulated as bed and breakfast. We're just trying to clarify. I'm on the lake board, and so we had our meeting, and it's becoming a big thing, as Mr. Victor explained. From what we really didn't get to hear much of what he said, but is it reasonable to think that the lake board of Lake Bungay or the other lakes, if they want to join in, could work with the town to set specific rules and regulations and ordinances that we can have here at the lake to try and get these things under control? Is that a good course of action?
Yes, and that's what we've done previously. It wouldn't be an
Okay.
ordinance, it would be zoning regulations, but actually that's what we did previously when we created the lake zoning districts.
Okay,
Met with the boards more than once, I know I did as chair, and we brought information back to the commission and heard what needed to be done to update our regulations for the lake districts. And yes, whenever we look to update regulations, we want to get public input. So if there's information you want to relay to us, it would be great to hear further, so that way we can better understand where you guys are coming from. So if there's any regulation change we might consider in the zoning regulation manual, we can get that input. If there's anything you guys wish to do, through your covenants and deeds and private restrictions, you guys can do that separate from the zoning regulations. You have that authority as well, because being a private entity. But yes, we always look to get the public input whenever we're considering changing regulations or asked to change regulations. So by all means, we would like to hear, in fact, we would want to then hear from all the 3 lake districts and from people who live outside of the lake district, which is the community district, which covers the whole rest of the town other than the small industrial district.
okay, so
Did you have something quick?
our
Go
board
ahead.
will meet then in November, and in the meantime, I'll reach out to Witcheswood and Quasit, and I think we meet November 2nd, I want to say. And so maybe we can get a committee together to meet with the town.
Yeah, it would really be meeting with us as a commission.
Oh, sorry, as a commission, okay, yep.
But if you want, by all means, you can touch base with me, and I'm happy to see what we can do to coordinate with the commission, because anything we get in, we would want to make certain we have on our agenda and we can be discussing and getting input. And they're all public meetings, so we welcome the input. And again, that's when we created the Lake District, the Lake Zoning District. That's how it came about, was working with each 3 lake districts. They all came together and told us things they liked and things they didn't, and what needed to work, and we worked with them and created it.
Okay,
So
thank
happy
you
to
for your
follow.
time.
Delia, real quick, and then I have another member of the public who wishes to speak.
So I had a couple things. One thing is that the quicker thing should be the CEO should contact the town attorney to figure out what he should do. And certainly the commission, with the involvement of any interested parties, could discuss whether they want to amend the regulations. If you want to email me, you can find my email on the town website, or it's delia.fay@ncog.org, and Delia is DELIA. Fay is FEY, so it's delia.fay@ncog.org. And you can find the email on the town website under town planner. And send me an email and I will send you the information on how the amendment process works.
Okay,
And that way you can understand what's involved.
But
thank you
also, it
very
doesn't
much.
necessarily mean that you have to submit an application to amend the regulations. The commission can at any time decide to amend regulations, just like we did tonight. We amended a part of the regulation. So many times we can begin that process. The process that we follow follows a different timeline than if somebody submits an application. So many times we work with people, and if the commission feels it's something to look into, we can actually be the ones to take that step as opposed to you guys having to craft an application. Many times it's easier when we do it. And so we're happy to work with things, so certainly you can get in touch with the ZEO, and to get in touch with the commission directly, that's through the ZEO. Technically, our office is his office in a sense. People at times get in touch with me as chair because they usually know how to find me, but usually everything we flow through the office. So happy to follow up with the ZEO and happy to follow up with you guys.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Allen, if you can state your name for the record, thank you for being here tonight.
Figure this out. Yeah, my name is Mike Allen. I live at 43 Hiawatha Heights, Woodstock. I am one of the people that live next door to the Airbnb. I will say that this summer has been a complete nightmare having that business next to me. I've documented everything. I have taken pictures. I actually sent it in to Airbnb. I'm just letting you know that there's other ways to address this, because I think it's going to take a year or two before we get down to what we can and can't do with Airbnbs. I think it's going to, by that time, I think we're going to have multiple Airbnbs. I think Woodstock has currently 12 or 13 Airbnbs. 2 of them are on the lake. And I anticipate more coming. But in the interim, the one way to address this is to contact Airbnb through their website, make complaints, legitimate complaints, submit your evidence. And that's one way to shut them down. I was able to do that. I got a call from Airbnb this week, talked to them about my concerns, sent them the documentations. They actually shut the home down from the site, so no one can go in and reserve weeks at that Airbnb. So that's a win. I don't know how long it'll last. I think it's just through the investigation, but I think until we come up with some new rules and regulations on how Airbnbs should be handled, that's the way to address it. So I just have a feeling this is going to take forever. Just my gut feel. That's all.
Thank you. Doug, I see your virtual hand up.
Yes, Jeff, thank you. The concern I have, I think Delia's advice is well given, is she should be dealing with the zoning enforcement officer. One of the difficulties if we amend regulations to address B&Bs going forward, they don't apply to active B&Bs right now, because our regulations can only go forward. They can't go backwards. But the ZEO may be able to review our regulations and apply them to the current ones. And I agree with Mr. Allen, it may take a while to get new regulations in place. But I think if you work with the zoning officer and also with your boards and your covenants, you may find that you'll get a quicker resolution to your problems.
Thank you, Doug. Is there anything from anybody else? I want to make sure I don't miss anybody. Did something further you wanted to say, Mr. Allen? I see your hand is still up, or is that just up? Okay, I'm certainly happy to hear further from you. Anything further from the commission? Tim?
We can't hear you, Jeff. Commissioner.
You say that again?
Louder, because we're trying to run off of Delia's laptop.
There's just a lot of different avenues that have to be brought into this. I mean, there's the fire safety and there's water quality, septic capabilities. There's a lot of things. If these businesses have come in and haven't gotten the permit process, that's the whole can of worms right there. I mean, it's not just the fact that they shouldn't be, they shouldn't be because they haven't gotten the permit. I mean, are they being taxed properly? Are they being, they would never got permitted? Do they have water quality issues? Do they have septic issues? Are there traffic issues? I mean, there's an awful lot of rule breaking going on here. So it seems to me that there shouldn't be a process that should take 2 years to shut down. There needs to be an avenue that should have been followed. I mean, we're doing that to others just from a subsequent meeting. I mean, we're trying to get, use a strong arm here. And I think we need to use a strong arm here. That there are things going on and that there is being, things just not being done right.
Well, once we hear about it or the CEO hears about it, then action is able to be taken. There's a lot of things that go on that you don't know about and the town government doesn't know about. As I said, I'll follow up on Tuesday when he's back in office to find out where they, what he's doing with the process. And also if there's any concerns raised that get into, and you're right, and we mentioned this earlier, other agencies, fire marshal, public health, building official, those things get looked at if there's concerns or complaints raised to those agencies. So it can be a multi-pronged approach, just not the zoning enforcement officer. I'll ask him, we can certainly ask the CEO to speak with the town attorney to see, where things stand as far as where these things fall. One thing to keep in mind about the Lake District, when it was originally created, the input we got from each of the 3 lake districts, the tax districts, was permitted uses and allowed uses by special permit wanted to be kept the same as the community district. The input at the time was don't take things off the list. Keep all of that the same as could potentially be done in the community district, which is the whole rest of the town outside of the lake tax districts. And that the lake districts at the time had told us that if there's other things they wanted to restrict beyond what our regulations say, that they could do that privately. But certainly right now, the Airbnb, issue, if it's how it's being looked at by the town, that's our purview. But how it's being looked at by each of the tax district boards, that's a private matter. So that's why there's 2 tracks that get looked at when it comes to the lake tax district, if that makes sense. Just not our regulations. But if we were to say, for example, we don't allow Airbnb, that you would have to decide which district, the lake district and the community district, one or the other, because they're two zoning districts, the way the lake district was created. But that can be looked at. Do we have, yes, Mark?
We can't hear him.
Zoning do not limited to requirements.
Yeah.
There's not much you can do.
Zone district was created. The input we got from each of the lake boards, and I was at those meetings with the lake boards, was don't take anything off the list. So that's why all those items that are there basically mirror what's allowed elsewhere in town. That was the input at the time. Now, if we get new input that says, well, we really don't want that in the lake districts, that's input we can take up and hear from people who live in the lake districts. Again, the lake zoning district is separate from the community district, the way it's been created, to try to protect the lake districts. That's why it was created at the time and drafted up. Again, even if we allow bed and breakfasts, a lake tax district on its own, through its own bylaws or processes, could say, no, we don't allow it. That could be more restrictive. That's a private matter, because that gets into covenants and deeds that we don't control. But for zoning, we can certainly will look further into it to see where things stand with enforcement. That certainly is number one right now. Mark.
Second part, what enforcement is there? Or fire marshal?
Well, for zoning, the enforcement would be that if the zoning enforcement officer determines that it's in violation, then correct me if I'm wrong, Delia, but that's a notice of violation that comes out from that office. And then, as I mentioned earlier, what happens is things can get ramped up. And we've seen that a number of times, where then cease and desist, we start having to decide if we're going to take legal action, get the lawyers involved, the lawyer involved, that type of stuff. With other agencies have the ability to issue notices. I think the fire marshal can actually issue a fine. I'm sure public health can. The building official has, his own set of regulations and rules to follow. So each agency that has its own jurisdiction on a particular matter has its own enforcement. So we can't enforce what public health is supposed to enforce. That's public health. But it can be, if say, I'm just using this example, an Airbnb that's in one of the lake districts is in violation of building code, fire safety code, public health code, zoning regulations, where you're talking multiple violations across several agencies, that each agency has to do its own action. So, and sometimes that is multiple hammers that hit somebody over the head to stop what they're doing or to seek a proper way to do something. So. And so what happens is that if there's any complaints that need to be made to the building official, that has to be made to the building official. If there's a complaint that needs to be made to the fire marshal needs to hear that. If there's a complaint that needs to be made to public health has to hear it. Health department has to hear it. Yep, the NDDH. So each agency has to hear, about it, but the ZEO can't issue a violation that another agency has the jurisdiction over. Each one has to kind of stay within its statutory lane, the way it works, but it doesn't mean they can't liaison and find out what the other is doing and what's going on. Yep. So with that, is there anything further from anybody else relative to Airbnb home occupation in general? Mr. Allen, did you have something additional you'd like to discuss with us?
Yeah, I just had a question. You had said that all these different agencies need to inspect or approve. How do we even know? I have no idea whether the health department, the fire marshal has approved this Airbnb next door. How do we know? How do we address that? How do we escalate it?
So what you would do is, if you want to know if, say, an Airbnb has a zoning permit, for example, you ask the zoning enforcement officer. If you want to know that if somebody has received a building permit they were supposed to get, you can ask the building department. If someone was supposed to get a particular health department permit or approval, that you ask that department.
Okay, so they offer that information up freely?
You'd have to ask them. I don't know some of their rules as far as what they can and cannot say. Anything that's a public document can be requested. Whether or not certain things are considered not public, I don't know all the intricacies, let's say, of the fire safety codes. But that would be something you would talk with the fire marshal, for example. He can certainly tell you what he's able to find out. The fire marshal, for example, does investigate things, as does the building official. It's part of what they do. When they receive concerns and complaints, they investigate.
Okay, so there is an application to open up an Airbnb, correct?
In order to, I don't know what that application actually looks like, but you would have to go to the zoning enforcement officer to, I'm imagining, Delia, request.
Well, right now, if they're not regulated as an Airbnb, you have to ask the town attorney.
Right.
But you'd have to seek some type of permit.
Okay, I think Brian Victor, who is there, has that application, so I can meet up with him and directly address the right agencies for that.
And what we'll do is, again, we'll find out, we'll ask the zoning enforcement officer to contact the town attorney to get updated information, which certainly is going to be shared with the commission. At our
Okay.
meeting. We won't be able to do that tonight, but I will on Tuesday when the land use department opens. Again, he's only there Tuesdays and Thursdays. I can let him know, and part of it will be ask the town attorney exactly what the town attorney is saying as far as how these things are regulated nowadays. That document from OLR that Mr. Victor had mentioned is from 2018. Now that we're in 2022, things are different based upon what the town attorney had relayed since then. Yes, Delia?
Okay.
The Health Department is a regional department. The Northeast District Department of Health is in Brooklyn. They're not in
Yes.
Woodstock.
Correct. I know that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Do we have anything else relative to this topic? Just not Airbnb, but home occupation? Okay. But thank you for all the members of the public for bringing this to our attention and also bring it to the ZO's attention. Because again, if we don't hear or the ZO doesn't hear, things wouldn't be able to be investigated. So it is good to, and there are many things that get brought to the attention of the ZEO. You know this for a fact, having been a ZEO, that then get looked into. So it starts with people bringing it to the attention of the town, which is good. And then we hear about it one way or the other, and then can look into it ourselves from the perspective of how we regulate things. So thank you for doing that. The next agenda item, we have cannabis regulations, which we have on, if we wanted to have further discussion about where we are wanting to regulate things further with regards to cannabis establishments within the purview of that huge state law. But basically that really gives the towns huge flexibility to regulate from a zoning perspective. I don't know if there's anything we wanted to take up tonight on this. When we last left off on it, we had some discussions relative to certain aspects of details, just kind of thinking through things from a planning perspective, not so much wordsmithing regulations. I also had a note that we wanted to find out from Attorney Roberts. Is there anything he wanted to perhaps provide to us that he's aware that other towns were working on? I didn't see I had received anything. My last discussion, if I remember from him, were that there were things that were in the works that could be provided once some things were being worked through for some towns or some other things that were coming forward. But we can follow up with him and see if there's anything new that he wants to present to us. For example, we had looked at Willington, what they were doing. That's just one example. A lot of towns are of course by necessity working on this, unless they actually in a sense ban some of it through their town meetings or whatever regulatory structures they have for their town. But unless there's any objection, I can talk with our ZEO and we can coordinate with you as well, Delia, and see what additional information we can get. I don't know if there's anything on a listserv that you might be able to access.
Yeah, I can ask, and NECOG gets proposed amendments from towns when they're supposed to be, when they're amending, but not all the towns send us those things like they're supposed to.
Right. But the listserv actually can be very active.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind querying on the listserv, we may
Sure.
get some very interesting things from some towns. Again, if we look at the cities, they regulate things a bit differently than us, but we can get that from the listserv.
Yeah.
And see where we are with that. We've wanted to keep that on our rolling agenda because that in home occupations and business permits are kind of a rolling agenda item. Do we have anything? Is there anything further from commissioners as far as the cannabis regulations we want to look further into or see what we can get from additional towns? And again, we have the Willington one. I'll distribute that to people again.
but we can see what else we can get from some other towns. Anything else on that? Okay. Yep. Well, I'll share again the latest copy of the Willington one, because I know they've been active on that. And Will Thompson, yes, has been, yes. Yes, right. Well, they have other issues going on with their planning and zoning commission in town that generates activity at their town meetings. They have their hands full with a number of things there. But otherwise, we'll see what further we can get. So we'll go accordingly. Otherwise, if we have nothing else there, that does take us actually to agenda item 7, which my understanding, Commissioner Young, is you have something you wish to speak on this agenda item? How come I didn't have to ask? So is that why you two sit together?
So that we can reach the computer.
Well, we're gonna have to figure out why this laptop has malfunctioned and now doesn't recognize any audio or microphone. I don't know what it did. Maybe it's time for a new one. So motion by Young, seconded by Blackmer. We can't discuss the motion, so I'll go through the roll call. Joe Adaletta, Mark Blackmer, Sid Blodgett.
Aye.
She's not here. Jeff Gordon, I will vote aye on that one. Jeff Marcotte,
Aye.
David Morse.
Aye.
He's not here. Doug Porter.
Aye.
Dwight Reinowitz.
Aye.
And I know the answer to this, but I have to ask. Tim Young, how do you vote? Tim, how do you vote? Okay. We are so adjourned, whatever time you have.
Bye.
I need to stop the.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.